All right, welcome everybody. This is our day 3 of our Compact Crossover Week. My name is Jim O'Brill. I am the marketing director for the Chicago Auto Show and co-host of Drive Chicago Radio on WLS AM 890. This week we've been highlighting some of the most popular crossovers and SUVs on the road, and today we're going to be talking with Ford about a very exciting new electric SUV that joins some staples in their lineup. If you have questions during the conversation, feel free to type them in the comments and we will do our best to address them towards the end of our discussion. We normally would be doing some of these live vehicle walkarounds during the Chicago Auto Show, but during these times, we're getting a little creative with our automotive content and bringing you some interviews like this to hopefully get you excited about some upcoming vehicles. And for those of you that are wondering, because I know you're out there, we are continuing to work out details and get approvals for a potential summer edition of the Chicago Auto Show with Chicago city and state officials. We hope to have an announcement soon, so keep checking our pages and website for the latest information. With that said, let's talk some SUVs. Before we get into the much anticipated Mustang Mach-E, I feel we need to give a little bit of love to the Ford Escape, which was first introduced 20 years ago and has been a leader and staple in the small SUV segment ever since it arrived. The Escape rides on a new platform that debuted for 2020. Within Ford's lineup, the Escape is one size larger than the EcoSport, but smaller than other SUVs like the new Bronco Sport, the Edge, and the Mustang Mach-E that we're going to highlight. It's offered in 5 trim levels, 3 powertrains, and comes in either front or all-wheel drive. And one of those powertrains is a hybrid powertrain consisting of a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder. And that model starts around $28,000 for the SE Sport and up to $33,000 for the Titanium Hybrid. I did spend some time driving the Escape Hybrid, so if you're looking for more information on the Escape Hybrid, which is one of the contenders in this category, check out drivechicago.com to read a full review or visit our Drive Chicago YouTube page for more information on the Escape Hybrid. With that, I want to jump into our highlight today. Some fans may not realize that Ford was one of the first brands to launch a hybrid SUV with the Escape back in 2005. And now we're here again with Ford leading the pack with the launch of a new SUV that's being called the Mustang Mach-E, which is showing up on Chicago streets as we speak. And here to talk about that with me is Lisa Teed, brand manager for the Mustang Mach-E. So Lisa, thank you for joining me today. To start, why don't you jump in and tell us how Ford continues just to stay one step ahead of all its primary rivals with vehicles like the upcoming Mustang Mach-E.
Well, hi, thanks, Jim. And to all those listeners out there, we do really appreciate your interest in Ford and our electrification strategy. But Jim already mentioned, we've had an Escape Hybrid out since 2005. We've been in the business of electrification. In fact, that Escape also is a plug-in electric today, which is available on the market. But as our portfolio has ever changed and is growing and we're learning and trying to be a thought leader in this, we have now what we call the Mustang Mach-E, which is really our most recent demonstration of our commitment to electrification. And it is an all-electric vehicle that's supposed to deliver more in the concept of what electrification can do for you. So in the conversation today, I'd just like to touch a little bit on different facets of what electrification can bring to drivers. You might say it brings it to me in the Mustang Mach-E, but as a whole, for the whole United States or even the globe, we're seeing a real revolution in this notion of electrification is good. It can do good for the world, and it's really transformational. And the ask for all of those consumers out there is just to give it a try. So Jim, I'll pass it back to you, and then we can get into the meat of Mustang Mach-E.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, you're right on the money. We're talking about new electric vehicles coming out almost every week on our show when we're talking about automotive news. So with that in mind, when customers are shopping for a fuel alternative vehicle, whether that be something like the Escape Hybrid or the new Mustang Mach-E, what do you recommend that they should keep in mind?
So first and foremost, this is my personal advice, but really I strongly encourage people to shop for the vehicle that meets their needs. What do they want to drive? And if you follow that train of thought, because it's a very much emotional drive, and it's something that you need to not only get your pragmatic work done, go to and from school, pick up the groceries, take the kids somewhere, go to work, do deliveries. The idea is that what do I want to drive and what gets me most excited? And that was the foundation for why Ford Motor Company chose to do a Mustang Mach-E all-electric vehicle. We felt first and foremost that it was going to bring it home to people to say, hey, you've never thought much about this, but you can have a 4-door vehicle. It can look rockin' hot. It can move exhilarating fast. It can be zero emission. It is an SUV and gets the job done. And when you think of that in the world of the trifecta, for me as a driver, as a user, I'm very proud to drive that vehicle. And I will say it is a head turner. I get more people stopping, asking me about wanting to see the vehicle, taking pictures while I'm driving, asking me to pull over, asking gazillions of questions because they're enthusiastic, not because they're in the market to buy an EV. They are intrigued that they can get an EV that looks this great and is that exciting. So I think that's the formula. It's the psychology. It's not I'm being pragmatic and I need something with zero emissions and I'm in the market to buy a blah, blah, blah. It's like, I want the Mustang Mach-E. It's very much of a different experience altogether.
For sure. EVs don't have to be boring and they don't have to look like something basic. I mean, and that's what the Mustang Mach-E is. I know when it debuted or made its premiere at the Chicago Auto Show last year when we saw it for the first time here, I know it was definitely a captivating vehicle on the show floor. Everyone that there was saying how much better it looked in person than they had seen in photos. So definitely kudos to Ford for bringing that vehicle. One of the things that I think comes up a lot when I talk to people about EVs, though, is range anxiety. I think it's the biggest thing in any conversation I have with someone is it's like, how can I operate an EV? How can I have to change my whole lifestyle in terms of planning trips? What would you tell someone that approaches you with that as to how are they going to handle that and how does it really change your driving habits?
So I went through that experience. Actually, I had a plug-in electric vehicle prior to having the Mustang Mach-E. So I can appreciate this notion of, oh, this is all this goodness that comes from electric. I don't have to go to the pump as often. So that's just a pure benefit. But let's just stop and think about what's your normal day in the life. I drive the car, I take it XYZ, I go to all these places and I come back and the vehicle parks in my garage for the most part. And your daily behavior is going to change where it just kind of like with your cell phone. You come home and what do? You plug in the vehicle, you plug in your cell phone, you replenish the energy that was used. So you're never really getting down to a state of zero with your energy, but you're probably never ever full either because you're going on these quick trips in and out of the house or to work, and then you're coming back. Now, the notion of range anxiety is primarily about perception. And I think it's for those individuals to say, you know what, I thought I only have to plug it in once a week, where it doesn't hurt to plug in the vehicle at all. In fact, we encourage it to be plugged in all the time. It's constantly keeping the energy and replenishing the energy is really the change of thought and perception. And then on those longer journeys, those times where you do want to go further away from home or on a longer journey or trip, you do have to do a little bit of homework and planning, but that's not your norm. I think your norm is when you're driving in and around on your daily commute or daily activities. So if you say, I don't really drive more than 30 or 40 to 60 miles a day, which is the national average is actually 55 miles on an average commute on a daily basis. These vehicles can easily achieve it because depending on what battery size you get, but the batteries now today in electric vehicles are delivering over 200 miles of range on a full state of charge. And bigger batteries are going to get you over 300 miles of range. And we have solutions in all facets of that. So if you think you can survive within or let's just pick 200 miles of range on a daily basis, the compromise or the challenge will be for you to actually have a ritual where you're going to replenish that energy and how easy is it for you to plug in. And what we're finding is most consumers in the United States will be using their home, their garage, or even if they park outside their house, they'll have a charging solution where they plug into a 240 volt outlet, which is not uncommon to get those installed in your garage and outlet, or you can do a permanent installation with a hardwire solution.
I really like the cell phone analogy because we're all used to that, plugging in every night. And when you think of it from a daily standpoint, that absolutely makes sense. It might change things for the long trips if you're going outside that range. But I know we're seeing a lot more EV stations pop up, charging stations. So solutions are out there. So thank you for addressing that. With that, I want to jump into the Mustang Mach-E and everything about this very cool SUV that's coming out. But let's start at the top because we're already getting questions coming and we kind of anticipated this. Let's start with the naming process of the Mustang Mach-E. I know there was a lot of buzz about calling an SUV with the Mustang name and putting the pony badge on it. So walk me through what that was like for Ford, because this wasn't just a matter of you guys deciding this is going to be a marketing thing. We're going to throw Mustang on it and get people talking. You guys have legitimate. You had a plan when you came to developing this SUV.
Right. So we knew we were going to electrify a whole portfolio of products, and our first one was going to be this SUV. And as the team was deciding on what this vehicle was going to be, we first decided that what can electrification do for you, or what can electrification deliver? And if you've ever been in an electric vehicle, or most recently been in as a driver or a passenger, electrification gives you immediate torque, like almost instantaneous. And what immediate torque is, as soon as you touch it, you're at 100% torque for the most part, if you can deliver it to the vehicle, to the wheels and the tires, and then put it down on the ground. And that's exhilarating. So immediately you deliver performance. You have heightened performance, higher horsepower and higher torques than you normally get on an aspirated engine. And we were thinking that, okay, what does that deliver? So if you're going to be a performance vehicle, Mustang is a performance vehicle. We decided that if it was going to be a Mustang, it first has to become a Mustang, and then it's an electrified Mustang. So we followed in the path of what is a DNA of a Mustang? It's about performance, it's fun, it's handling dynamics, it's braking, it's exhilarating, it's beautiful, it's a head turner. And so therefore, when it was decided that it was a Mustang, it was taken very seriously before we were going to put a pony on it, that we had to deliver on the DNA of a Mustang first, on all those aspects. And if it met that, then we could call it a Mustang Mach-E, which is an electrified version of it. So first it seems controversial, because most people say historically Mustangs are noisy, they're gas aspirated, they're rear-wheel drive, which this Mustang is a rear-wheel drive. And on top of it, they're 2 doors. But when you think about it fundamentally, I might be middle life, and if you can't tell by the image on the screen. But the point is, I'm not looking to be boring at my age. I want something exhilarating. I want something fun to drive. I want something that can get the job done. And I call this the trifecta for me, because it is by far one of the most exhilarating vehicles I've ever driven on a daily basis. Just getting on the highway ramp, going down and just doing some simple lane maneuvers. I'm driving on a freeway, a single lane road, and really just driving dynamically. It is so much fun to drive. It just changes your personality, and you actually have a huge smile on your face. So first and foremost, if it's going to be a Mustang, it has to be a Mustang to get the pony badge. And then we made it an electrified Mustang with the powertrain change up. So we have an electric all-wheel drive derivative as well.
So what I'm hearing is, don't let the name sway you too much. You got to get in this car and experience it, and you will understand the Mustang name to it.
When you get in, even the engineering, so if you're really truly a Mustang enthusiast, we really encourage you to get in it and see what exhilarating the get up and go is, but also on the dynamics, the driving, the handling. And we have 3 drive modes in the vehicle. So there's one that's called unbridled, where the inputs given by the driver, the steering positions, the foot positions, the deacceleration, it's all very, very much more dramatic, just like you would in a Mustang if you're driving dramatically or aggressively. And the vehicle is very well balanced, because the battery sits underfoot, meaning underneath the passenger. So we have a very balanced, it sits low to the ground, and we're able to distribute the weight more in a balanced way. So with all this dynamics and the braking and the tires and the rims, and it's just, even when you get to the GT, you can see I'm getting excited here, the GT Performance Edition, that's where we get to supercar mode, and what our engineering team can deliver to make it a Mustang, and to deliver the power down, and to get to it's actually 3.5 seconds in 0 to 60. That's in supercar territory. And you can't just design it because you want. You actually have to put a lot of work to get down to that 0 to 60 level, and actually have the vehicle respond in the way that you want from a sports car handling position. So we're very proud of it as a Mustang, and we're very proud of what electrification can bring to this Mustang, and actually open the lens of what Mustang can be in the future, aside from just what we had traditionally thought of it as a 2-door, great looking sports car, which is by far, I think globally, it's the #1 selling sports car in the world. So we're super proud.
It's definitely an icon. And I know a lot of fellow journalists that have spent time driving the car have echoed your sentiments that, once you get in and drive it, it all makes sense, and it's an absolute blast on the road. But let's talk a little bit about the technology found inside the Mustang Mach-E, because sitting inside this car, it's a little untraditional from what you're used to hopping in any car. So talk to me about the screen and all the other technology that comes with the Mustang Mach-E.
So when we went out to deliver the next generation of products for Ford, this is going to be one of our flagship vehicles to demonstrate how advanced tech we are, not just with electrification, but also from the technology suites, which we have like Ford Copilot Assist technologies, which are hands-free technologies, as well as connected technologies, which is connecting to the cloud and the modems. And then other technologies, which we refer to as over the air, which is basically giving us the ability to update through software updates, through modules, while you're sleeping, or when the vehicle's parked, so we can keep the vehicle fresh and new and ever changing. It's for simple things like maintenance and software updates to something that we can provide new features in the future. So when we say it's the most technologically advanced product Ford has in the showroom, it truly is, because we're doing things that we've never done before. And there's other things that are more notable to a consumer for the first time user. Your phone will now become a virtual key. We call it phone as a key. So in addition to your traditional key fob, you can set up your phone. You can set it up for 4 users, and your phone is actually the way for the vehicle to start and stop. You can do remote starts if you want to warm it up. You can do other activations with your phone as if you had the key fob in your hand. Otherwise, when you walk up to the vehicle, it greets you. The side view mirrors unfold. The doors unlock because they know that I'm in proximity. It's just, the vehicle is like, again, I use this reference to a cell phone. How your cell phone continuously learns you and your behaviors, this vehicle through this modem connected cloud is learning your behaviors as well, and it becomes personalized to you versus the other driver that might use it on a different day of the week. So you basically have 4 personal profiles being developed at any given time within your family group or your friend group that's using the vehicle. And it's just the beginning of more for Ford. So technology super strong on this vehicle, super advanced on this vehicle, and just the beginning to show how vehicles are not what we consider the traditional tech leaders of years past, where you've got engineering, you've got design, and now you've got software basically as a key technology attribute.
Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. Speaking of all this advanced technology, how do you think that's going to shape hybrids and EVs and the rest of the Ford lineup? Do you think this stuff is going to kind of carry over? I know you guys introduced the hybrid F-150 earlier this year. We're going to see that trend with Ford, and you also mentioned an upcoming GT model. So what can we look forward to with some of this stuff?
So in regards to electrification, doing 100% electrified powertrains and some of our key, I guess, brands and vehicle lines, F-150 is going to have an all-electric battery electric vehicle as well. We have an E-Transit that's 100% like a commercial van product that's out there coming into the market soon. And so that's the beginning of how this portfolio is going to expand in regards to doing what we think we do best. We do best with trucks. We do best with Mustangs and sports cars. We do best with SUVs, and we also do a great job with commercial vehicles of getting the job done. So as you can imagine, if we're starting to use our #1 nameplates across those different facets and showing what electrification can do to do more, and then we add a layer of this technology suite, which really is independent of it being an all-electric vehicle or not, you're starting to see how Ford is really being like almost future forward with showcasing what's on the horizon for the rest of our portfolio, regardless of the drivetrain and powertrain.
Well, and it's great to see a vehicle like the Mustang Mach-E that's attainable for everybody. It's not I know we talked about a supercar version potentially coming, but the base Mustang Mach-E is priced affordable. It's within reach, and it's hitting dealerships now, correct?
Right. So we've been shipping vehicles since the end of the year to customers who had placed early orders, or we called those reservations, about a year ago. And those are being produced as we speak and being delivered to those customers across all 50 states through the whole U.S. But more importantly, when you were talking about attainability, that was also another priority for us. So Ford Motor Company has the ability to, or is eligible with the Mustang Mach-E for the $7,500 federal tax credit. So in addition to the price of the vehicle, and our starting price for the Mustang Mach-E is, I believe, $42,895. The customers can also apply for that federal tax credit, which actually makes it even a bigger value proposition and attainable for those customers that, actually do their taxes. So when it really comes down to it, this is not to be a vehicle that's supposed to be just a halo, just a showpiece, or something that is not meant for the masses. This is really by design intended to be for those users that we know are, there's a high interest in SUVs in the marketplace. There's a high interest for electrification that's growing. We're seeing this notion that people are willing to try and convert. And I think once they put it into their lifestyle, they see that it's very reasonable. It's not really a stretch of the imagination once they get the opportunity. And I think Ford has a really winning proposition right now for the Mustang Mach-E.
It would seem so. So if you're following along and you have any questions for Lisa while we have her here live with us to talk about the Ford Mustang Mach-E, feel free to type those in the comment section, and we will address those questions with you right now. If not, you can always post them later, and we will do our best to respond at a later time as the video lives on. So while anyone drums up their questions, Lisa, anything else that you want to add that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about charging because we just touched on it lightly. So we talked about charging at home. I wanted to go back into just that storyline of understanding that for every Mustang Mach-E buyer, they get in with their vehicle a charger, and that charger is as simple as has the ability to plug into what we call 120 volt outlet, which is everyone has those all over their homes. And then you can have an upgraded 240 volt, which is more like the outlets that you use for some of your larger appliances. And because the charger can go either way, you can easily plug into that 240 volt outlet, which I have one in my garage. And I get about 20 miles of range replenishment for every hour of charge. So if I'm driving 60 miles and I come back to the house and the car sits there for 3 hours, I'm going to replenish the energy that I used. Now, for those that are saying, you know what, but I want to go on that longer journey, I want to use the charging network. Ford has worked with a number of vendors and suppliers of charging stations throughout the nation and basically aggregated them under what we call the Ford Pass charging network. So with your Ford Pass app, you have the ability to access all these different charging vendors and stations, and it comes right into your vehicle's HMI. And while you're driving real time, and let's say you get down to maybe 50 miles of range left, the computer in the vehicle and the systems are so intuitive based on cloud, it's going to say, hey, you've got 50 miles left. You might want to stop for a charge because I know you're going all the way to Milwaukee. You probably want to stop here at this charging station, which is available today or right now, or there's another one up the road at exit 29. And it's giving you choices so you can basically map a roadmap or map a plan for when you want to stop. If you want to stop for 10 minutes, you'll get this much charge. If you want to stop for 30 minutes, you'll get that much. But it's helping you identify how you can continue your journey and make it really easy in real time versus sitting home and mapping out a big old game plan and then finding out the information wasn't right or accurate. So the systems are so intuitive that I think the charging anxiety that's out there by perception, until you start actually living it, you're going to find that we can't really relieve that anxiety until you experience it firsthand. But that Ford Pass charging network is supposed to be the other way to help address your charging needs. So the vehicle becomes virtually usable in all cases, wherever you go.
And that all pops up on the large touchscreen in the car, correct?
Right. So you have your Ford Pass app, which is on your phone, which you can, be at your desk, office, on your couch and plan your trip. And then as soon as you get to the car, it just uploads in there what your destination is. But even real time, you have it on your 15-inch monitor, or it's a touch screen essentially, which is your center stack right there in the middle. And it's a beautifully designed system. It's called Sync 4A, super intuitive. I mean, it's front and center, it's elegant, it's modern. But I tell you one thing that gets undercalled all the time, or not even spoken about, right between your hands on your steering wheel is this nice digital 10-inch cluster. It's horizontal, it's 10 inches wide. And front and center is your speedometer. It says in digital numbers, like 2.5 inches high, that I'm going 60. Overachieving the speed based off of what the speed limits are in the area. So, I mean, the vehicle, because it's digital, it's interactive, it's telling my charge state. I have it so front and center that I'm getting real-time data all the time about how much charge state I have, and there should be no surprises about how much mileage you have left on your charging, on your state of charge on your vehicle. It's fantastic.
That's a great thing to add. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people mentally think we have to go back to the days of MapQuest or pulling out maps and literally plan out all our different stops. But with a system like that, it's really not an issue. Ford's already done the work. You just have to tap in your phone to that. Well, this has been great, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the Ford Mustang Mach-E. It doesn't look like we've got any more questions coming in at this time. But again, if you do have questions, feel free to type them in the comments, and we'll work to get answers to you later if we don't have them. I know Lisa will gladly send us some more information if we need it. So anything else you want to add before we sign off for today?
Well, I know I thank you all for that opportunity, and we do encourage you to go see your local Ford dealer. We have over 2,100 in the nation that are selling they're EV certified dealers. They have Mustang Mach-E's available for test drive, and give it a shot. You'll be surprised. I think you're going to love it.
Thanks so much, Lisa. I know I look forward to spending some time behind the wheel of one as well. Everyone raves about it, so it should be one to get out there and at least take for a test drive.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.